The latest update for the On300, not too kind to some Tennessee football commits. Fair or foul? Should these recruits have fallen this far? That and a whole lot more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. You can always find me on Twitter or X at _Caner and at Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. Thank you, everydayers, for being a part of the show, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch. Each and every single day, we are free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, download, all that good stuff. Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. Got a fun show coming up today. If you're watching on YouTube, I have the wrong little thing there, and there we go. That should be fixed. The On300 updated rankings. George MacIntyre took a tumble. We'll get into that and some other Tennessee commits. Tennessee, along with the other 15 teams across the SEC, announced their player representatives for the SEC Media Days next week in Dallas. Was this a missed opportunity for Tennessee? That's coming up in a minute in segment 2, and then Ward Wednesday with Josh Ward in segment number 3. I appreciate you guys, as always, for making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine. Big shout out to FanDuel Sportsbook for making this show possible. You can make every moment more over at FanDuel.com. /locked on to make every moment more. That is FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, so you've got the On300 updated rankings, and as I say all the time, On3, which is my parent company. I work for VolQuest. We're an On3 affiliate, so this is my company, and I think we're the best of the best. But you're never going to make everybody happy, right? I mean, it's you raise this prospect, you have this prospect fall, this commit for Georgia gets up, this commit for Tennessee falls. I mean, this fan base is happy, this fan base is mad. This commit could be shooting up the rankings, but this commit be dropping, and so it's a thankless job. And I do think Charles Powers does an awesome job for On3. I think he's one of the better talent evaluators in the industry. I do, and I'm not just saying that, because I work for the same company he works for. I think he does. I think his track record speaks for himself, and I'll get into another example of which in Tennessee's current class that he's high on. But think about James Pearce a couple years ago. On3 was the only outlet that had James Pearce as a 5-star. Well, they're talking about him being the #1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And that was Charles Power. He evaluated him, and he rated him accordingly. And look at him now. Of course, that's one example. Everybody's got some wins and some losses. I recognize all that. But my point is, you update these rankings several times throughout the year, and these rankings will be updated again. And, this one in my mind is probably one of the, at least for this class, the 25 class, because if you're a big-time prospect, you're not camping this summer. I know that's not necessarily the case for everybody, but for the most part, if you're a highly rated 4-star, 5-star prospect, you're not camping anymore this summer. So there's not much out there to... there's not much out there to determine, if this prospect should rise or fall based on camp performances or showcase, or, really you're kind of going on spring ball. So this one's not an important ranking update in my opinion. But several Tennessee players rose and several fell as normal, but nobody's movement was more noticeable than Tennessee's 5-star Tennessee's, highest rated prospect in the class, and that was quarterback George MacIntyre. George MacIntyre, in the latest updated On300 rankings earlier this week, went from number 16 in the country to number 74, according to On3. And remember, you still have the On3 industry rankings, which weights all 4 of the outlets by a certain percentage. On3 and 247 at 35%. You've got Rivals at 20% and ESPN at 10%. So that's the On3 industry rankings, which is kind of like a composite for 247, if you've heard that before. But On3 specifically dropped George MacIntyre from number 16 overall to number 74 overall, and that's a pretty significant drop. I'm not sure. I mean, George MacIntyre, he did not compete in the Elite 11 because he had an injured, finger. I guess the last time that Charles Power, had George MacIntyre in front of him, maybe he didn't wow him, but that is a significant drop. I don't think that there's any reason to look into this if you're a Tennessee fan. You could be frustrated. That's fine. Tennessee loves George MacIntyre. Tennessee's got George MacIntyre as a commit in this class. George MacIntyre loves Tennessee. Nothing's changing in that regard. I think Tennessee and Josh Heupel and Joey Halsley's evaluation of George MacIntyre stands out more than anything. But that was a significant drop. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Tennessee's most recent football commit, Marion Dye, moved up 4 spots to number 36 overall in the rankings. So obviously Tennessee still has some highly rated prospects. He now becomes the highest rated commit in the class for Tennessee. Edge rusher Jaden Lofton, who committed a couple weeks ago, made a huge jump in the rankings. He was previously outside the top 300. We call it the On300. But after this update, he's up to number 157. So a significant jump for Tennessee commit Jaden Lofton. You got Ethan Utley. He remained close to where he was, moved down 2 spots from 194 to 196, so that's okay. It's pretty much a status quo. Nic Moore, Jefferson County, go Patriots, moved up 39 spots, up to number 211 overall in the class, so that's solid. He was a big mover. Douglas Utu stayed put right at 280. 280th in the country for David Utu. For the Tennessee commit on the interior of the offensive line. Charles Howe stayed put at number 284 as well. So, I mean, a lot of these guys are still in the On300, and that's really, really good. Tight end commit Jack Van Dorselaer, he did drop out of the On300 rankings. He was at 285 originally, so he drops out. Look at some targets for Tennessee. Of course, 5-star offensive tackle. David Sanders is up to number 6 in the class. He was at number 2 overall. Actually, no, he was at number 2. He's the second-rated offensive tackle in the class, number 6 overall in the class. So David Sanders, still a big fish out there. He's going to announce his commitment between Tennessee and Ohio State. Georgia's in the running as well, but it's a Tennessee-Ohio State battle. That's going to be August the 19th. Fellow offensive lineman Josh Petty, he's a tackle. Tennessee thinks he can play guard as well, but ultimately he can play both. He's up at number 53 overall. Juan Gaston, he's at number 234, so those are some offensive lineman targets for Tennessee. Travis Smith, who got a falling ball to Tennessee the other day, and he's going to be announcing a commitment here in the coming days, here pretty soon, I would imagine, and Tennessee feels like it's in a really, really good spot. Wide receiver, again, this is Travis Smith, number 59 in the country. You've got running back targets, Shakia Mills-Knight, Zamoun Kamra, both in the On300 at 237 and 104 respectively. You've got Shady Hayward, who comes in at number 75 overall. Christian Gass, linebacker, at number 85 overall. And Georgia linebacker commit that is a flip candidate, in my opinion, for Tennessee. Jaden Perlotti dropped out of the On300 in this latest update. So, all that said and done, okay, I threw a lot of numbers at you and a lot of names at you, and a lot of people don't follow recruiting as closely as we do here on this show, or just in general. Tennessee was at like number 10 or number 11 maybe, and I believe was at number 6 in the SEC. But after this ranking, Tennessee has now dropped down to number 16th in the country and 9th in the SEC. Do I think Tennessee will finish as low as 16th? No, I do not. Do I think Tennessee will get a bump with some of these prospects back up to probably where they should eventually, once senior season starts, and then senior season final tape, and then finally before the final ranking updates later on when the calendar turns to 2025? I think Tennessee's going to be getting some more bumps, and Tennessee will be fine. Will that be enough to get Tennessee in the top 10? I don't know. It's not everything, right? You want to be in the well in the top half of the SEC. Like, Tennessee should strive to be obviously number 1 in everything, but Tennessee should strive to be 5, 6, 7 in the order in the SEC. Right now, you're at 9th. Tennessee still has obviously 16 commits. So now you look at Tennessee's highest rated prospects, and it is Marion Dye, 36th overall per On3, but in the On3 industry rankings, it is still George MacIntyre up there. George MacIntyre, 25th overall in the On3 industry rankings. Douglas Utu is 53rd. Marion Dye is 121st. Ethan Utley is 149th. I skipped over Rodarius Jackson. He was the example I was going to say. Rodarius Jackson. So I mentioned James Pearce earlier, and I'm not saying that Rodarius Jackson is going to be James Pearce in a couple of years, but it was an early eval from Charles Power. On3 was the only publication that had James Pearce as a 5-star. Rodarius Jackson is an On3 outlier. He did drop back slightly to number 83 overall, but number 83 in the entire class is really, really good. Other services have him ranked outside the top 250. So On3 has him as a top 83 prospect, while no other publication has him in the top 250. So another example of how you can spot talent, and this is kind of Charles Powers' evaluation here. So end of the day, I'm not going to say recruiting rankings don't matter because I work for a recruiting service. That would be silly of me. It is not everything. I will say that. It is certainly not everything. You got to be able to recruit. You got to be able to evaluate talent. You got to be able to recruit that talent, sign that talent, okay, then develop that talent. And there will be other updates, throughout the calendar year, but I did want to bring that on the show here because the big one is noticeable. George MacIntyre dropping from number 16 to number 74. I think that was a bit extreme, but hey, that is just my opinion. But certainly some other risers in the class for Tennessee. I still really like Tennessee's class. I think Tennessee's staff, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but I think Tennessee's staff's doing a heck of a job recruiting right now. Just my opinion. Okay, SEC representatives for the media days. Tennessee's representatives for the media days coming up next week. We'll get into that here in a moment as we continue on here with your Wednesday Locked On Vols. Want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook and Greener. This is for you. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports, they're not sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers. Not just new customers, not just existing customers, all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So what you need to do is head on over to FanDuel.com, start making those most out of your summer. FanDuel, it's the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel is where you can make every moment more. FanDuel, go play, win big all summer long with a boost or a bonus daily. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sports book. All right, if you will allow me to take a sip of the old coffee right now. Been a long Tuesday recording. I was up and at 'em doing what I did for 5 years. I don't know how I did it for 5 years. I did the morning show over at Cumulus Knoxville, 99.1 The Sports Animal. And I've been filling in, hanging out with John Wilkerson a little bit this summer, and it's been fun. I love radio. Always love radio. I will forever love radio. One day I hope to do radio in some capacity again. I love radio. But oh my gosh, how in the world did I do 5 years of the 6 to 9 a.m. show? Gosh, man, I was waking up at like 4:30 the other morning. Had to go all the way out to Pellissippi and Hardin Valley Road. Paper Mill, Pellissippi. I always get Paper Mill and Pellissippi mixed up. Pellissippi and Hardin Valley. I had to go all the way out there, and I live in North Knoxville, so that is a heck of a drive for early in the morning. And I forgot how many cars are actually on the road early in the morning. Anyway, been a long Tuesday, been a good Tuesday, but needed a sip of the coffee right there. Okay, let's get back into the show. Sorry I wasted your time. Omari Thomas, Keenan Pili, and Cooper Mays. Not a whole lot of wow factor there, right? And that's no disrespect to those guys. Tennessee in every program wants to send players who are going to be great representations of the program. Guys who are smart, guys who will articulate their answers, guys who will give thoughtful and reasonable answers, guys who will not give bulletin board material to anybody out there. And on top of that, these guys are good players. Omari Thomas has been a 3-year starter for Tennessee. Cooper Mays has been a 4-year starter for Tennessee. Keenan Pili, albeit has played one game in a Tennessee uniform. He's now been on campus for a little over a year now, going into his second season. But he's an older guy, 26 years old. Remember, BYU class of 2016 signing class, and then he went on this 2-year mission trip and a couple of medical red shirt, a regular red shirt, a COVID year, and looking, he's still here, and that's awesome. You'll take that. But point is, a lot of maturity, a lot of smart dudes in that room, and Tennessee couldn't go wrong. I'm pleased with Tennessee's representatives. However, missed opportunity. Should Nico be there? Should James Pearce be there? Couldn't go wrong. I mean, certainly those are going to be two of the most exciting players, not only on Tennessee's football team this fall, but certainly around the SEC. If Nico is who we believe he is, and he lives up to the hype, no pun intended. People want to hear from him, for sure. James Pearce, I said in the previous previous segment, and I've said it before, he's being talked about as being the number 1 overall draft pick potentially in 2025. Got to go out there and earn it, some more and continue to ball out in the fall, but he's getting that type of hype right now. So why not send Nico? Why not send James Pearce? I don't think it's anything against them. I think they would do a fine job, but Josh Heupel is very protective of his quarterbacks. Hendon Hooker never went to SEC Media Days. Joe Milton did last year. I recognize that, but Joe was going into his 6th year and he was the undisputed starter and he was a team leader. And I think that kind of made some sense. I mean, he'd been around the block a time or two. But Nico's a first-year starting quarterback, and he was the number 1 overall recruit in the nation, according to On3 in the class of 2023. He is the rumored $8 million man in name, image, and likeness. There is a lot of storylines when it comes to Nico. And so in the in the swarm of media people like me out there, why put him out there to have to field potentially some of those questions? Why put him out there to have to field a question about, I'm a part of the media, I get that, but some of the questions are just so stupid. And anyway, I'm not going to get off on a tangent here. So, but why put him in that situation? Hey, Nico, just focus on quarterback and being a leader of this offense, being a leader of this team. Okay. James Pearce. I think James Pearce will do a fine job. I truly do. I will say this, he's gotten better the more he's spoken with the media, but James Pearce is not a guy that likes to get in front of the cameras. James Pearce is not a guy that likes to get in front of a microphone. And that's fine. You know who else is like that? Dylan Dreiling, Blake Burke, Kavaris Tears. They were really good baseball players and great guys and awesome guys. We give you some good answers. They just didn't enjoy doing media. And I think James Pearce is kind of in that same realm. But still, weighing the pros and the cons, did Tennessee miss an opportunity? Maybe if you look at it in that respect, because Nico and James Pearce are clearly the 2 best players on the team. But I don't think Tennessee, for what Tennessee wants to accomplish, especially with how Josh Heupel is in front of a microphone, you're sending Keenan Pili, Cooper Mays, and Omari Thomas. Your mission accomplished. Those guys are going to do a great job. Cooper Mays, senior leader, 4-year starter. Keenan Pili, as I mentioned, the elder in the room. You've got Omari Thomas making his 2nd trip to the SEC Media Days. How about that? Not many players can say they've gone to SEC Media Days twice. I know, more than I probably am leading on right now, but certainly not in Tennessee's case. So they're going to do a fine job. You look around the conference, see some of the other representatives that were announced. LSU on Monday, July 15th. LSU, along with head coach Brian Kelly, is going to send first-year starting quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, but he's been in LSU feels like a decade now. I think he's only going to be a junior, to be honest, but he's played a lot, even though he's not started. Garrett Nussmeier, Mason Taylor, the tight end, Harold Perkins, best player on the team at linebacker. Those are going to be their representatives. Ole Miss is going to send, along with Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, and Jared Ivey. Quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end. South Carolina with Shane Beamer will send Alex Huntley. Luke Dottie, how in the world is he still there? And Debo Williams, the linebacker. And Vanderbilt on Monday, along with Clark Lee, will send Gunnar Hansen, Langston Patterson, who is a good linebacker, C.J. Taylor, the safety. On Tuesday, along with Tennessee, who's in the afternoon session, made for TV. Got to have Oklahoma there with Tennessee there, right? That's just going to dominate the day. So annoyed. Brent Venables will send Jackson Arnold, the quarterback, who's a first-year starting quarterback. Danny Stutzman, linebacker. Billy Bauman Jr., defensive back. So kind of Nico's counterpart, especially in Week 4 matchup. Jackson Arnold, same situation. Former 5-star, got a taste in the bowl action there. Bowl game last year, first-year starter. Oklahoma's electing to send him to SEC Media Days. There's no right or wrong answer here. Missouri with Eli Drinkwitz going to send Luther Burden, Brady Cook, and Christian Williams. Okay, that's pretty standard. Kirby Smart is going to send Carson Beck, Malachi Starks, quarterback and safety, and Keiko Williams, a defensive lineman. On Wednesday, Alabama with Kellen DeBoer will send Jalen Milroe, the quarterback, Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman, Malachi Moore, the defensive back. Okay, all those guys are names we know. Billy Napier is going to send Graham Mertz, the quarterback, Shamir James, the linebacker, and Montrell Johnson, the running back. Okay, all those guys, we know who those guys are. Mississippi State, Jeff Levy, Blake Shapen, first-year starting quarterback in the SEC, coming over from Baylor via the transfer portal. Offensive lineman Albert Reese IV and John Lewis, the linebacker. Texas will send with Steve Sarkisian, quarterback Quinn Ewers, Kelvin Banks, the offensive lineman, who's going to be one of the first, probably a top 10 pick next year, and Jade Barron, the defensive back. On Thursday, the final day, Arkansas with Sam Pittman will send Andrew Armstrong, a wide receiver, Taylon Green, transfer quarterback from Boise State, and Landon Jackson, the defensive end. Auburn with Hugh Freeze, quarterback Peyton Thomas. I believe that should be Peyton Thorne. Yeah, I think that's a typo there in the story I'm reading right now. Linebacker Eugene Asante and Keldrick Falk, defensive end, former Tennessee recruiting targets. Kentucky with Mark Stoops, Marquez Cox, offensive lineman, De'Eric Jackson, linebacker, and Deion Walker. Deion Walker's a really good player. And then Texas A&M with Mike Elko will send Shamir Turner, defensive lineman, Torin York, the linebacker, and Trey Zun III, offensive lineman. So a lot of notable names that these people are sending, and so I beg the question, and let's go back to it, and let me reiterate it. Did Tennessee miss an opportunity not sending Nico and not sending James Pearce? In my opinion, no. In college football fandom, yes. College football national media, yes. Josh Heupel? No. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that should be good enough for Tennessee fans for sure. We'll see how Cooper Mays, Keenan Pili, and Omari Thomas represent Tennessee. They're going to do it in a really, really good way, and they're going to make the university look good. I know that. Hey, when we come back, we'll catch up with Josh Ward. Little Ward Wednesday action here to conclude a Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Hey, Josh, we're less than a week away from the start of SEC Media Days, and, of course, Tennessee taking the stage in Dallas on Tuesday with Oklahoma, Georgia, and that other team that I'm forgetting. Biggest storylines for Tennessee do you think will happen at SEC Media Days outside of course, Josh Heupel in Oklahoma?
Right, that's going to be a popular one. It will carry all the way through the SEC opening week for each team, Tennessee and Oklahoma when they play in Norman. I think Nico taking over at quarterback, despite him not being there, there will be a lot of talk about what he can do in this offense with Josh Heupel as the head coach. There will be talk about what this team and program can do in the new 12-team playoff era. A lot of what we talk about here in Knoxville with Tennessee. Can the Vols get to the playoff? Tennessee is viewed by just about everybody outside of Knoxville as a team that has a really good chance of getting in, or at least deserves to be on the list of teams that will contend going into the season. So Tennessee as one of the top programs trying to chase Georgia, Texas now that it's in the league, Alabama even with a new coach. Can Tennessee beat out Missouri, Ole Miss, LSU, those other teams that are in similar positions? I think that'll be a lot of the conversation around the Vols.
What do you like about Tennessee's three representatives? Keenan Pili, Cooper Mays, and Omari Thomas. Thomas making his second appearance at SEC Media Days. Feels like you couldn't go wrong. All three of those guys, great ambassadors for the program. Although people, which I understand why, but people are wondering why Nico Iamaleava and, of course, James Pearce are not among that trio.
Well, one thing I like about the trio that's going is that it's a group of three players that are closest to me in age. As the gap is widening between my age and college athletes, we have Keenan Pili, who's been in college or at least out of high school for 8 years. He had the Mormon trip during his time at BYU, but he's in the 2016 class. And then Mays and Omari Thomas, fifth-year guys. So you have a ton of experience, and that is one of the reasons I think to be optimistic about Tennessee. I'm joking about the age gap a little bit, but
a little bit.
Mays coming back to lead on the interior of the offensive line. Omari Thomas coming back to help lead on the interior of the defensive line, and Keenan Pili coming back to help lead as we keep going back through the middle at linebacker. That is significant, I think, for Tennessee when we talk about the optimism. And every school has the same opportunity in this last year that we're entering with the extra eligibility from the 2020 season. But Tennessee has several players, not just the three that are going to be at media days, but in different spots on the roster that have elected to take advantage of that as well. So I think that leadership that Tennessee has still been looking for to be more widespread in the program with Josh Heupel as the head coach, as they're trying to get back to where the team was in 2022 with the success they had, 10-2 in the regular season. Having guys who have performed well and can lead this young talent that is now going to get more of an opportunity is going to be really important for Tennessee.
Tennessee's now 3 weeks away from opening fall camp. I mean, it's hard to believe. 3 weeks from today, they're going to be out on the field with helmets, and they'll get the shoulder pads on, and the day or two after that. But who was somebody, we're talking a whole lot about Nico, James Pearce, and some others. who's a name that maybe we're not talking about enough? Who is a name that is going to have a good fall camp and your, your hypothesis, your guess, and will be a big role for Tennessee here this fall?
Well, I think a lot of players on the defensive line are eligible. We talk so much about the group and its potential. Yeah, everybody gets mentioned at some point. I still think somebody like David Hobbs should be talked about more because we talk about the older guys. Hobbs is a guy with tremendous talent. He's only going to get so many snaps, just like his teammates on the defensive line. But I think he has difference-making talent in terms of how good the defensive line can be every single snap with whoever's out there. If he has a good fall camp, that will add to the confidence that Rodney Garner will have on the defensive line. I know he's somebody that gets talked about, but maybe should be talked about more. So I would point to him. We talk a lot about Boo Carter and his talent and excitement, but I also know coaches will lean on guys that they believe they know more about. So somebody like Jordan Thomas, how does he perform this fall? That's something that I'm sure matters to coaches for where they will be August 31st when they open up against Chattanooga. In terms of conversation in Knoxville, I don't know that he gets brought up a whole bunch. It's more about the corners, Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson, what they can do. And Andre Turrentine now is a fourth-year player, third year at Tennessee. So Thomas, David Hobbs from an elite potential standpoint is who I would look to. And then trying to find somebody on the offensive side. I'll be curious at running back. I don't even know who the answer should be. I just want to find out. Deshaun Bishop, what can he really do? Peyton Lewis, what kind of opportunity will he get? Because, again, he's a freshman. I'm skeptical how much opportunity a freshman will get, but somebody has to help Dylan Sampson as they wait for Cam Seldon to fully come back from his injury.
I did a show yesterday, and we discussed it on our VolQuest podcast as well, kind of talk about position battles, and obviously left guard is going to be a huge position battle, and the linebacker opposite of Keenan Pili, and maybe even safety, and the wide receiver, on the other side from Brew McCoy, a healthy Brew McCoy. But Brent Hubb said something, and I thought it was a really, really good point. Like, left guard is a big position battle, but maybe it's not as important as tight end. Tennessee's going to play multiple tight ends, don't get me wrong, but you don't know what you have there in Ethan Davis and Holden Stays and Miles Kitzelman. You at least know who Dane Davis is. You know who Jackson Lampley is. You know who Andre Carrick is. Don't know an awful lot about Sham, but there's a lot of guys who have played a lot of football that will play left guard probably, whereas the tight end position, how critical it is of this offense, it's very much unknown right now. I thought that was a really good point. Would you agree with that?
Sure. We did a discussion, which is similar to this, I think, and it was a discussion of X factors for Tennessee. Who's an X factor? And that can have a different definition from one person to the next, but we kind of viewed it as somebody that's a little bit under the radar that doesn't get enough attention, as you kind of brought up. And Ethan Davis is a name that we tossed around because of his talent and the excitement of what he can do as a pass catcher. And he's only entering his second season, but I think we've been talking about him so long, going back to his recruiting days, and he had that impressive catch on the impressive throw by Nico in one single play of an orange and white game. But it was one of the plays that stood out because there were so few in that kind of setting, and it showed what his ability might be. And now Tennessee has to replace the players from the last few seasons, Princeton Fant, and then last year, McAllen Castles and Jacob Warren. So somebody has to step up. Why not somebody like Ethan Davis? If we talk about the potential of Tennessee's offense, well, getting the most out of the tight end position is going to be really important for that.
Did the show, your show, Josh and Swain on Friday of last week, and obviously the Power Poll. You guys close out the each and every show with the Power Poll. On Fridays, you guys do top 5 things to watch on the weekend, and in the middle of July, the options are pretty limited. I put Summer League basketball on there, knowing that I would never watch it, but Dalton Connect was out there. Santiago Vescu was out there. They played a couple games against one another. You are a huge NBA guy. I know you were busy this weekend, but did you get a chance to watch any of Connect and Vescovy and any of those other Vols in Summer League action?
I did. I didn't watch a ton. I was able to record it, pull it up, and try to go through and watch some because I do love hoops and even Summer League basketball. I want to make sure everybody understands this. Dalton is going to play for the Lakers. Bronny might play, Lewis might play, but Dalton's out there playing with guys that will not be his teammates this upcoming season. And they've only been practicing together for a week and a half, at this point in our conversation. So all of that needs to be considered. He didn't shoot the ball well. I don't care. I've seen Dalton Knecht shoot the basketball. He's going to be just fine shooting. I don't know what kind of role he's going to play. I would offer some caution right away, expecting, he'll be inserted into the Lakers starting lineup and he's going to be playing 25, 30 minutes. That's not the expectation. I think it's, can he get into the rotation right away, build some confidence among his teammates, build a role, and then if he plays well, he'll see his time on the court increase. But he's going to get open looks in the league, and that's going to help Dalton, I think, help the Lakers. I'm curious what happens with Vescovi. My guess is that he's playing overseas out of the U.S., but maybe he finds a G League spot that's preferable to him. Making the Warriors right away is going to be really tough, but he's a player that we saw develop at Tennessee defensively. He knows what he's doing out there on the court. He played 4.5 seasons in college, so he's so experienced, similar to Josiah Jordan-James, who's signed with the Pacers for this summer. But I thought Vescovi hitting non-threes, getting into the lane, hitting a tough shot. He's a guy that he's going to know what to do with the basketball. He is not going to match up athletically with a lot of the players at the next level. He's not going to have a size advantage at the next level, but he knows how to play the game. He's played all over the world, it seems, at this point. But his college experience will help him find a spot. He's going to make money playing basketball. Josiah Jordan-James is going to make money playing basketball. Dalton Knecht's going to make a ton of money, and he's going to help the Lakers, I think, this upcoming year.
Well, Klay Thompson's out, and I just moved Santiago Vescovi right in there, right? I mean, simple as that.
Yeah. I'll bet the Warriors love him. I'll bet they get around him and know his experience with Rick Barnes, and that's something they're going to like a lot as well. But Santi, he did not have the kind of season he wanted to close things out at Tennessee, but when he was at Tennessee in his final year, he was the SEC's active leader in three-pointers made. He ended up becoming a completely different defensive player. I remember when he got to Tennessee, I was like, oh my gosh, they've got to just hide this guy and figure out how to defend despite Santi. He ended up being a difference-making player for them defensively. That to me says as much as anything about the progress he made as a player during his time in Knoxville.
Josh Ward, co-host of Josh and Swain on 99.1 The Sports Animal, noon to 3 weekdays. What's going up on the show the rest of the week? And, of course, next week with SEC Media Days.
Yeah, we're grinding through. So this is maybe the slowest week of the year. And we don't get many slow weeks thanks to Tennessee baseball and their run through June. But we're doing a mix of everything that's happening with Tennessee leading up to the draft. Tennessee basketball has been part of the conversation again with some excitement around Cam Carr and players coming back. And then we'll be in Dallas next week with our show. So we'll have live coverage of Media Days, and we'll have our newsletter Friday to kind of set the stage for that. So the football and Tennessee sports talk continues 12 to 3 on Josh and Swain.
Are you going to be in Dallas, or is Swain going to be?
I will be in Dallas. Yeah.
Oh.
So flying out, and there will be a lot of disappointment when I walk in instead of Jason Swain, who's he's a celeb in SEC country, which now includes the state of Texas.
It does indeed. Oklahoma and Texas now officially a part of the Southeastern Conference. Josh, as always, man, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. You guys know it by now. Wherever you get your podcast, you can download us, you can listen to us, you can watch us, all that for free. Tell your friend, word of mouth. Let's get this podcast growing. Let's get the download numbers up. Let's get the subscribers up on YouTube, and let's get this thing set for football season. Just a couple weeks away. SEC Media Days next week. Camp starting at the end of the week. We filmed our position previews for VolQuest.com the other day. About that time. I'm excited, and I know you guys are as well. We'll be with you every step of the way right here on Locked On Vols. We'll be back on Thursday. Guys, enjoy it. Appreciate you guys. As always, this is Locked On Vols.